I'm going to start this recording again because I was just talking gibberish. Right. So this bug, if I... So this is the way that the tempo guide is supposed to generate these snapping points infinitely to the right until it collides with something. So this is how it's supposed to work. But there's an interesting bug where if you... It's not actually snapping to these. Is it because I'm too... There's multiple... I see the bugs. Okay. So, right. There's a couple things going on here. It's a bit subtle. So the first thing is... If you have if you drag this to the right and then move lane, then it's fine. But if you just drag it directly to a different lane without moving left or right, then it doesn't update this until you drag something onto it again, and it will recalculate. And then conversely, if you just drag a block onto the lane without moving it left or right, like that. Whoops, I accidentally zoomed. But so just don't move left or right, but just drag onto it. Then it doesn't update these notches either. It doesn't like stop them. But then when I zoom in and out, it will update. And then there's another problem where this is a more difficult problem. I don't know if I'm gonna... So the notches exist up to here. And I can snap to these notches on the left. But if I drag to the right, these new notches are going to be created, and I actually can't snap to them until I release the mouse button and then start dragging again, and now they become real notches, not just visual. I wonder if that's easy to fix. I can't quite remember how this notch stuff works. But let's look at the first bug first of all, which is this one. Wonder what's going on there. Where do I even look? This, I think that would be tempo guide points. Okay. So certain operations will mark a tempo block instance to have the guide points updated. For example, no, tempo guide points. Whole word. No, I don't see it. Oh, right. Dirty tempo guide points. So tempo settings changed. Here we go. Geometry update. If the type, yeah. Position changed. If there's a tempo guide to the left. Right, so I need to trigger the guide points. So the way this works is anytime you move a block instance, I'm checking if there is a tempo guide directly to the left of it, and then I'm marking it to update the guide points. But I'm not doing that when it changes lane like that. I'm only doing it when the position changes. Set position. Somewhere in here. Lane. Set lane. Set breath logical lane. Right, it happens here. Ah, yeah, here we go. Here we go, right. So there's two things we want to check. We want to check the lane that we were moving from and the lane we're moving to. We need to check both to see if there was or is now a tempo guide to the left. And if there was, then we need to mark it to update. So obviously the lazy thing to do would just be every time a block moves in any way, just iterate through all of the tempo guides that exist on the entire workspace and mark them all to update. But that's a bit icky. That's the kind of thing that I try to avoid stuff like that if I can, because that's not like a major performance bottleneck in and of itself. But if you have enough of those things, and there's like thousands of opportunities to just do the lazy thing, and things just get slower and slower, and eventually you just have a slow program, and then you don't quite know where to look for optimization opportunities, because it's not the kind of thing that in and of itself would show up in the profiler as a bottleneck, because it would just be mixed in with all the other like shortcuts that you took. So it's not that difficult to actually do the right thing here and just update the tempo guides that I need to update. So let's have a look. Yeah. Just go back here. Yeah, I want to look at the left-hand neighbor. At what point does this recalculate neighbors, I wonder? Oh, I can do it when the neighbors are recalculated, I guess. Update neighbors. Now this is really complicated. Lane neighbors, what's that? No, that's not what I want. Breath neighbors. Okay. Okay. So this is where at some point we're gonna go through the entire lane and update the left and right neighbours of each block instance. So at that point we can look at the old neighbour and the new neighbour on the left and check if it's a temper guide and then mark it as dirty if we need to. So new neighbours, let's rename this. Old neighbours is this. In fact, I guess we need to just do this. Old neighbours is neighbours. Alright, if old neighbours L what do we do? Do this. Basically this. If the type of the old neighbour is a temper guide, we don't have this get type. There we go. I think this will work. I think it makes sense. So that means I can now remove this, because it's going to happen anyway. I can just fuck this off. So I have a more comprehensive update for it now. So I've got something else happening here. That one's fine, I guess. 10% exchanged, okay. Let's see what happens now. Hopefully this doesn't massively... Oh, that fixed the snapping. No, it didn't. No. But, hey, there we go. Okay, that did fix it. So the other issue is the snapping. I'll have a look at that in a second, but this seems good. Another temper guide. Okay. Fix tempo. I don't know how to describe that. Oh, I have to come up with some kind of description. Let's say bug fix. Tempo guide. Notches do not update. Properly if a block is dragged to the right of it. In certain corner cases, it's a phrase I always use to weasel out of describing things properly. Okay, let's have a look at the other problem, which is the snapping. Don't understand why it's rebuilding. Why is it rebuilding everything? I didn't change anything. All I changed was the CPP. And this. I don't understand why MSVC has decided to rebuild everything. That's cool. So snapping. Oh yeah, so the problem is fuck you, come on. The problem is when the snapping points are generated. Because there's two types of snapping point. There's the tempo notches, and then there's the edges of blocks as well. You can also snap to the edges of the edge of a block like that. And those are all generated at the beginning of a drag and drop operation, so that it makes sense what's going on here. So it's generating snapping points for each of these notches. And then I press the mouse button and start moving to the right. And it's not snapping to the new notches because those haven't actually been generated. So maybe I should just stop doing that. Here. Lane data snap points, yeah. Snap points. Generate snap points. How? There's two things I could do here. I could either stop pre-generating the snapping points at the beginning of the operation and just generate them on the fly during the operation. Like every frame, every time the user moves the cursor by a single pixel, I just regenerate all the snapping points. Or, it wouldn't be that expensive. It's all sort of organised in a cache efficient way, I suppose. Because of the way I store this data, so it's not that expensive to calculate, I suppose. The other thing I could do is just generate two sets. For each lane, I generate two sets of snapping points. The first set of snapping points, open up this again, just for explanatory purposes. So for each lane, I generate two sets. So no, that would be really complicated, actually. Well, I was gonna say, if you have something on the lane below, then you only want to snap to these points up until the tempo notches end. But if you have something on this lane, then you want to also snap to all of the invisible notches here, which are going to appear when you drag to the right. So I was thinking I could generate two sets of snapping points for each lane, one for the other lanes to snap to, and one for things that are on the lane itself to snap to. And then I would just choose which set of points to consider during the snapping, depending on where the thing is that I'm snapping. That gets a bit complicated, because what if you do this, then you have one tempo guide being blocked by another tempo guide, and you actually don't, even if you do have an item on this lane, you don't want to snap to all of the invisible ones that this is generating, all of these all the way to the end. You actually don't want to snap to those. So I don't think that's a good idea. I think I'll just generate all the snapping points on the fly. Going back on what I said earlier about why it's good to prematurely optimize. So let's just delete that, and then the compiler will tell me what the problems are. There's quite a lot of work here, actually, that I'm going to be doing each frame, but I think it'll be fine. Also, blocks shouldn't snap to themselves, but I think I'm already dealing with that in here. Let's have a look. Blocks should not snap to themselves. Where is that happening? Hold on now. Are blocks actually snapping to themselves or what? I can't see where it's there must be some code in here somewhere that prevents a block from snapping to its own edge, but I don't immediately see it. Yeah, it's not. So when the operation starts, its snapping point is, there's a snapping point generated here and here, but I'm clearly not snapping to those, which is correct. So it must be filtered out at some point. I don't know where that's happening. Let's have a look. If I do this, it should generate 2 snapping points, right? No, 1. Ah, right, I'm passing in the root instance here, so what's that used for? Root pref. Nothing, it's just checking if it's the song start. Yeah, I don't understand. It does snap to, oops. It's going to snap to this point here. Right, so what's going on? Get snappable instances. Ah, it's going to set, right. It doesn't consider blocks that are involved in the drag and drop operation, that's why. So it's looking at, oh yeah, I remember how all this works. Yeah, it's silly, but it works. So that at the start of like a drag and drop operation or one of these block stamping operations or whatever, I generate this thing called a situation, which is a description of it's like a stripped down description of all of the block instances that are not involved in the drag operation or the stamp operation or whatever it is. Like if it's a block copy or a clone, or you're copying a selection of blocks or whatever it is. The situation is everything not involved, so everything that's still on the workspace static. And then I have this thing called an interaction, which I generate at the beginning of the operation as well. Where can I find it? Drop interaction. No, I don't know where it is. Is it here? Interaction. So this is all the blocks that are actually involved in the operation. So everything in the situation is things that we can snap to or collide with. Okay, so that's why, okay, right, everything's making sense now. Okay, let's think. So I'm going to delete this because we're going to generate these on the fly instead. Cut all of this out of here and stick it somewhere in here. Let's just comment it like that for now. So we can actually generate that one lane at a time, so we don't have to generate all of it. Necessarily. Okay. To do. Just want the compiler to show me where the errors are now because I deleted that member from that struct from here. Oh, that's not very helpful. So MSVC has not noticed that I updated a header file, so I have a bunch of out of date object files here. But if I open the file, then I should get, no, make situation. Generate snap points. Oh no, I'm wrong. It's just because I had this declaration still in here. I take back what I said. Okay, so I could just delete this here. Continue. Now this is not necessary anymore. Let's make this better. Okay. So it's going to be something like generate snap points for this lane. Which is just going to be a list of ints. Oh, I am just generating all of them. So targets make snap targets. Do I need to generate all of them? Is that a... I suppose I do because of soft snapping. Yeah, I just have to generate all of them. That's fine. Generate snap points. Okay, here we go. Get rid of that. Can we salvage this in any way, or do I just rewrite it? Generate snap points for a lane like this. Get snappable instances. Okay, do I have the view? Am I passing in the view? Okay, so I just want to pass in this thing as well. Oops. Ah, what did I press? I don't know. Yep. Get snappable instances. Lane data. Get workspace pixel width. Okay. Just reading the code. It works. Let's do a bit of a stress test here. So it seems completely smooth, and this is in debug mode as well. So there you go. Computers are fast. So every time the mouse is moving now, I'm just regenerating every snap point on the entire workspace. So all of these notches, the left edge of this block, left edge here, right edge here, left edge, right edge, left edge, just everything in the entire workspace. I'm generating every frame every time the mouse moves, just to solve this issue of not snapping to the points that are being revealed when you move this to the right. But this is all working, it seems. Block to the right of a temper guide being dragged to the right does not snap to the newly revealed tempo notches. Right, yeah, I'm just gonna go on macOS now and try to fix the crash on shutdown that's been happening. I see if I can fix that. And then I'll put this on Patreon, probably.